Okay, good morning, everyone. Happy Spiritual Sunday. Good morning. Nice to see you all. Thank you for joining us on this Thanksgiving Day weekend. You know, it's so funny. I grew up here in America, so you always think of these holidays. But now that we have people watching us from all over the world, you realize in other countries, they don't have Thanksgiving weekend. So let's wish them a Thanksgiving weekend from here in Boca. Everybody who's watching it. There we go. Exactly. So can't we make that universal? Right? Isn't that the real idea behind it all? The point of Thanksgiving is really to remember a historical event? Not really. What's the real purpose? Thanksgiving, right? Giving thanks, just appreciating the good that we have, etc., right? Being happy to be on this side of the grass, as I heard one of the students say, yes? Still trying to figure out what that means, huh? Okay. They're
not old enough.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, it's old? Okay. This side of the grass meaning breathing the air on this side instead of in that side. Okay, that's it. So we're happy to be alive. We're happy to be here. We're happy to have the opportunity to be able to transform our lives from good to better and better to the best. Yes? Yes. Okay. I also want to shout out, we have somebody I just saw who's watching us from Hungary. Ooh, yes, exactly. Thank you. You never know, with this thing called the internet, all you have to do is just put something out there, take the video of today and just share it out there. Because you never know who's going to be connected to who, connected to who, connected to who. So we've got Hungary, we have all these different locations, not because there's a center or a study group, but because somebody pushed share and shared one of the videos, who shared with somebody else. And like all of us, like some of us, you get a friend request and you just almost automatically just push it, whether you realize who they are or not. So sometimes we get these people way out there from every country on earth are watching us. Okay. So okay. I was just thinking, so we have to be on our best behavior because you never know who's watching, right? So how many of you are brand new? Should have started with that before they think we're really crazy. Great. Thank you for joining us. And thank you for your friends who told you about us. So we're about to do our weekly affirmation. The affirmation is just to constantly ingrain in our thoughts, in our mind, and in our consciousness, the truth. And that's all we need. The truth is already out there, is there not? Yes. We're going to talk about it a little this morning. But the truth, all the solutions we're looking for already exist. The problem is that we've blocked ourselves by disbelief. And so we have to constantly reaffirm the belief and the truth that we already have the light of the Creator inside of us, and that miracles and wonders are up to us to be able to make them manifest. It's not up to the Creator. It's all in our hands, as we'll discuss a little more this morning. But let's get ourselves started with affirmation. Put ourselves in the right frame of mind. Put us all on one page together. Those of you who are watching us either on Kabbalah.com or on the Spiritual Sunday Facebook page, you're welcome to join us. And let's think. Put in our consciousness, since of course the first words are consciousness is everything, that this light that we are channeling is going out to every human being on earth. Because we have the opportunity to influence them more than the chaos influencing us. And so we have to always remind ourselves, I don't know why I'm going over here. Okay. What's the default setting? If you think about it right now, if you ask most people outside in the world, what's the state of the world? Is it harmony and order or chaos? That's what people say. It's chaos out there. Well, you and I are learning how to turn chaos into harmony and order. So do we want them to influence us, or do we want to be more influential on them? Great. We want to influence them. So what does it take? Consciousness. And that's why we start in our affirmation. Consciousness is everything. But consciousness means to be conscious, to be aware. And so let's be aware that we have a spiritual interconnection with every human being on earth, like a spiritual internet. So you know how people out there are hacking people to find out whatever information they need? Yes, we know there's hacking. Hopefully none of us get there, right? But we know there's hacking. So here in the Kabbalah Center, Spiritual Sunday, what are we out to do? Not only awaken and raise our level of consciousness, but by holding the consciousness of one soul, that we are on the spiritual internet with every other human being, we want to hack into their soul. And we want to activate the DNA of the Creator inside them. We're not taking away their free will, just to put that in your mind. We're not forcing them to do something, but we're awakening more and more of the power of the Creator inside of them. We just have to keep it in mind with all our actions. So let's do it together and keep in mind the entire world, especially this Thanksgiving weekend. Let's say it together. Consciousness is everything. I raise my consciousness today to see the miracles and wonders of life. I commit myself to behave with greater love, compassion, and kindness towards all human beings. So we here in Boca, we're going to stand up, we're going to greet each other. Those of you who are watching us online, please take a note not only to say hi, but one thing that you have gratitude or thanks for. See you in a minute. All right, so here we go. So, how many of you ever felt lack in your life?
Oh, God.
No, God has no lack, only we might, okay? So let's think about it. Why do we feel lack? Simple answer is because we don't have everything we want, right? We want something, we see we don't have it, and therefore we feel a lack. Okay, so I was thinking about it this morning. Every once in a while I go on my phone and I do something other than text, phone call, pictures, email. What else can you do? Search, etc. I actually play a word game. You know, one of these, like make how many words you can out of these letters that are on the board. Okay. Confession. So I can get to maybe 35 to 50, depending on the whatever. And every time you finish the 2 minutes, they come up, they say, okay, you did 35 words, you did 50 words, you did 42 words, whatever it is. And then they tell you, there are 250 words on that board. Even my highest score is, I don't know, maybe 52, 53 words, and they're still telling me there's 240 words, 260 words. And of course, what are they trying to do? You got to pay to find out what all those words are, right? But the issue for today is, why do I feel a lack? On my high score, why don't I just feel, oh, that's the best? Because now they show me that in the same thing I was looking at, there are actually 250 words. So I only missed by 200. So then when we in life, when we feel a lack, what are we really saying? Remember, what did we just affirm? Consciousness is everything, and we're here to raise our consciousness. So let's think about lack. The only way we can feel lack is if we've already experienced something and now we don't experience it. Think about it. How can you miss something you've never had, never felt, never experienced, never tasted, never owned? How can you? So then you and I are here in the Kabbalah Center to remind ourselves the Creator already gave us everything. And that's why we can feel lack. Because I know some of you right now say, well, then how do I want XYZ that I've never had? Almost seems like a contradiction, no? But let's go back to how the Bible teaches us. And those of you who are new, you want to understand that the Kabbalists teach us the Bible, the 5 books of Moses, is a historical document, but that's like 1% of the whole picture. The real purpose of the 5 books of Moses is to teach you and I the spiritual technology, the spiritual lessons for 2018. What's going on in the cosmos now. Because what went on in the cosmos then is the same as now. The sun rose and set the same way it does now. The stars and the year work the same way as it does now. Gravity, thermodynamics, quantum theory, computer science, etc., operated then, unbeknownst to people, the same way it operates now. So the technology of the universe didn't change. How much we knew, understood, or are aware or made use of, that's changed. So then when the Bible says that there was a place called the Garden of Eden, what does that mean? Today, if you tell somebody, oh, I would love to live in the Garden of Eden, are you saying you love to live in chaos, lack, disappointment, fear, anger, trouble, problems? No or no? Everyone's used to yes or yes, right? Of course not. So when we say we want to be in the Garden of Eden, or there was a Garden of Eden, what are they really telling us? That there is a perfect world with perfect people on it now. We are all perfect people, right? As we often affirm, we are pure and perfect beings of light. We may be hidden, we may be covered up, we may not be expressing it all, but that doesn't mean we are not. The same thing with the world. The world is already perfect. It's just being hidden by our free will. Because what happened in the Garden of Eden? Metaphysically, what does it tell us? Adam and Eve looked at the two trees. They had a choice in life. They made, unfortunately, as we look back on it, they made the wrong choice. And therefore they brought chaos, pain, suffering, death, and destruction into the world with their wrong choice. Now, we can feel angry at them, and we can start pointing the finger at them. But like I learned in elementary school, if you point the finger this way to blame somebody, how many are pointing back at you? 3 fingers, right? So you can blame them for one thing, it's 3 times your fault. There's something we can do about it, and that's what we're learning here. So we want to blame Adam and Eve. We got to remember we all come from Adam and Eve, and on a spiritual level, we're all part of Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve contained the totality of every soul on earth today, every soul that ever existed. So you and I were part of that decision. And in today, 2018, we're also making that same choice. Unfortunately, we're still making the wrong choices to maintain the difficulties in our life. What were their choices? In simple Kabbalistic terms, their choice was either to receive first or to share first. That was their choice. The choice they made, and unfortunately we still make very often, is the choice to receive. Because how many of you ever heard somebody tell you, it's more blessed to give than receive? Right? Better to share than receive. So we have that opponent in our head that tells us, okay, yes, we do want to share, we do want to give, but I have to receive first in order to share. So we're making those choices, receive or share. Now, if we're sitting here in this room, you're watching us, then you're all spiritually minded people. And we all have come to understand the law of, not the theory of, the law of cause and effect. Right? What does cause and effect mean? Whatever we do, the universe will reflect it back. Not God up there in the mountains or in the heavens or whatever waiting on us. No, the universe is technological. If we do, it comes back. We often talk about, you put an apple seed in the ground, how many times have you seen oranges come off the tree? Never. You plant an apple seed cause, apples will come out. The universe brings back the apples, reflects what we do. Therefore, let's remind ourselves, if we choose in any interaction with any person, any situation, if we choose to receive first, then forget that person or the physical situation. What will the universe therefore have to choose to do first? It'll have to receive first. So it's like the person holding the apple seed in their hand, not planting it in the ground, and say to the universe, well, first let me receive apples, then I'll put the seed in the ground. The universe is speaking back to us and says, no. If you want to receive, I want to receive. So you give me the seed first, because I want to receive, and then I'll give you the fruit. So it never works. We're holding the seed, and there's empty ground. So we have to understand that in life also. Are we choosing first to receive or share? Because if we are sharing first from our talent and ability, our resources, our capability, our love, compassion, kindness, all that the Creator already gave us, if we are sharing that first, then what does the universe have to do? Not because it has free choice, but because it's technology. If we are sharing first, what does the universe have to reflect back? Also sharing. It's got to share with us before it thinks to receive. Just want to make sure that's sinking in. The universe is in perfect balance, even when it looks like it's bringing chaos. Go back to my word game. I look at those, whatever they are. It's funny, I never even thought how many letters there are. Maybe 36 letters, 6 by 6. So there's 36 letters there, and I can make 40, 50 words out of it. They tell me that there's over 250 words on it. So for me, it's chaos, is it not? Where are those words hiding? But that's the key. The words are hiding somewhere beyond my knowledge, beyond my understanding. But they exist there. They exist there. So the solutions, everything already exists. Don't let yourself think that it's not already supplied to you. We have it all. We just need to share first. The universe will reflect back the sharing. When we're receiving first, then the universe will receive first. And that's what we'll call chaos, because then we don't see the solution. We see a challenge, we see difficulties, we see blockages. Not only for us, you look out at the world and see all the chaos out there. And then that opponent in our head says, oh, look, there's no solution. So if there's no solution, what should we do? Find what we can do for ourselves and our family alone. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. Because the more we are seeking to receive first, the more emptiness we feel. And what's sadness or depression really mean? Think about it. What is sadness or depression? It means we're feeling a lack. But a depressed person has a big lack, and they have a sense of hopelessness. There's no answer, there's no solution, there's no way out of it. And therefore they stay depressed, or we could say deflated. Do they make an effort to get out of it? At least not in the beginning. Why? Because there's no solution. It's like looking at those 36 letters and say, yeah, they're just making it up. They just want me to pay the money to find out nothing. Right? They're only taunting me with 250 words possible. No, there must be 250 words. So I have to first invest my time and my effort to find them, then I'll see them. But if I don't, then all I'll see is chaos. So if we're not investing our light force of sharing first, then it's not going to come back to us. And therefore we stay in that sense of lack. And what can it do? So you say it's a bad feeling. But it's not just a bad feeling. It disconnects people when they're depressed or extremely sad, disconnects them from divine inspiration, disconnects them from the voice of the Creator that's also in our head. We have those two voices. We choose which one to listen to. Very interesting story. Jacob, of the three patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, described by the Kabbalists as the most perfect. But he also taught us a lesson. When his son Joseph was disappeared, and he thought that his son Joseph, his most beloved son, was dead, it says he was sad. And the moment Jacob was sad, he lost his divine inspiration. He lost his connection to the light of the Creator. Because we would say, well, if he was so connected to the light, why didn't he perceive with spiritual vision Joseph was still alive? And the Kabbalists teach us that lesson. Because he was sad or depressed, he lost his connection to divine inspiration. The divine inspiration is where all the answers and all the solutions exist. So we're looking at a challenge today. If we don't believe there's a solution, number one, all bets are off. If we believe there's a solution but we've disconnected from it, then we're not going to have access to it. If we believe there's a solution and we're willing to do the work first, sharing unconditionally in whatever the appropriate form, then we're going to reattach ourselves to that channel, that broadcast station called divine inspiration. Then the answers will flow to us. Otherwise, we're stuck. I have a student that recently just told me she has a nice life. She's got a husband, a couple kids. Things are going well. She got a good business. Like everything's good in her life in 2018. But she still is battling depression. With a logical mind, how do you understand that? Everything's good. Relationship with her husband, her kids, the business, everything good. Makes no sense. And yet, what is she experiencing? That depression. She's experiencing extreme lack. So she's a newer student. We started to discuss. If there is cause and effect and nothing changes until we change it, then there must be something that she's been carrying somewhere since her childhood. We in the center would even say from a past life, but that's harder to perceive, easier to perceive this life. So at least let's look for the hint in this life. Then all of a sudden she started to remember things that were happening to her in childhood that made her believe there was a hopelessness to her future. So even though she had some kind of merit to have a good life, the child in her, her 8 or 10-year-old, was still feeling this lack, this hopelessness. And therefore she was influenced by that inner child that still exists inside of her to not see the blessings in her life, to not see the good in her life, to not see how the light of the Creator was filling her life. So then as we started to do a little meditation and talk about it a little bit, all of a sudden, she's in this meditation. We go back to heal her inner child, to change. You know how we often say, I wish I could go back then, right? I wish I knew then what I know now. Well, this is what we can do Kabbalistically. So as she started to do that, as her words, suddenly there was a new vitality that started to awaken up inside of her. Because she started to perceive and look and pay more attention to the good in her life and tell her 8-year-old that's inside of her all of the success and all the possibilities that she has already. Because that 8-year-old felt she had nothing. As the adult went back and taught the 8-year-old that she had and she's capable and that she would achieve, suddenly the 8-year-old, instead of holding back the adult, was actually inspiring, and as she called it, giving new vitality to the adult. And she started to overcome her depression. She started to actually be happy about her life. So they say that there's 2 ways that we can be motivated. Should I tell you? Okay, just make sure. Should I tell them? Okay. Maybe I'll just tell you. Okay. No, okay. Oh, it doesn't work. It goes there. So there's 2 things. We can either be externally motivated or we can be internally motivated. Which means what? We can be motivated by our desire to receive things in the physical material world. Like all of us in some level, right? Most people go to work. Why? Because they really just want to share their talent and ability, or they're really thinking about receiving the paycheck to pay their bills and do all the other things they do. Exactly. I'm not deciding for you, you decide. So, but what happens, and this is the key, I'm not telling you that's a bad thing, but what happens then? If a their business is going well, like this student was, you'd think she'd be happy all the time. She works, she makes a nice living, she works, she makes a nice living, she's got a nice income, lives in a nice place, all the nice things of life. Why was she depressed? Because she still held inside of her this big, empty, deflated space that could not be filled by the physical material things. Now, in some of our cases, or people that you may know, they're making a nice living, everything's going well, and if they're only based on the external, physical, material goods, then what happens when those things start to disappear? What happens if they lose the job? What happens if they don't sell enough to make their usual commission? And the physical things start to disappear little by little. Are they happy and ecstatic? No, they go down with the income. They go down when the physical material things are disappearing. So then they're not affected, they're not living, as we say, from the internal, connecting to the light of the Creator that's inside us and inside everything around us. They're connected to the outside. So then as the outside goes up and down, what happens to their mood? Up and down. If we're driven in life by the internal, by the light of the Creator that exists everywhere, and we're able to connect to the light in everything all the time, then what happens when things go up or down materially? We're still happy and joyous. We're still serene and peaceful. We're still feeling that sense of fulfillment, and we're inflated instead of deflated. So I was just sharing with a group yesterday, there's a Kabbalistic saying that this was very appropriate for. Who is the wise person? The one who learns from everybody. Who is the strong person? The one that can control their desire. And who is the rich person? The one that's happy with their lot, with what they've got. What the Kabbalists were teaching us with that saying is it doesn't matter then what goes on the outside. The Kabbalists are teaching us how to be internally driven by the light of the Creator that's in us and all around us. So as much as we are and growing in that internal drive for the light, then we feel less and less chaotic because we're not going up and down with the physical material things. Because even a physical thing disappears, what happens to the light of the Creator? Does it disappear? No, because the light of the Creator is infinite, so it's available all the time. In fact, I'll tell you something I heard from about 1986 in one of the classes from my teacher, Rav Berg. He was talking in the class of the 10 Loomis Emanations. Think about this. You ever had a flat tire? You ever seen a flat tire? So the tire's filled with air, right? So it's inflated. Now let's say there's a puncture and the tire goes flat. What's really going flat? The air or the physical material of the tire? The physical material. Because did the air become less? Or did the air stay where it was, but the tire moved from inflated to deflated? But the molecules of the air still stayed there. They didn't go anywhere, just the physical material changed. So we say the air went out, but where did it go out? It stayed in the same place, just the rubber moved. So the same thing. The wise person, the rich person, the strong person, not moved by the outside, moved by the inside. That's why we're here connecting to the light of the Creator and remembering that it's always available to us and always around us. But which drive we will have determines what our future is, independent of everybody else. So you can have your best friend, the most beloved person in your life, right next to you. If they're driven by the external and you're driven by the internal, then you have different futures. Different futures. Short term may look like the same. How many of you ever been on an airplane? How many of you were on an airplane all by yourself? Really? A few people here. What did you, was it a private plane or you just bought all the seats? Oh, I see. They thought I meant all by themselves, like with no friends. I'm saying there was nobody else on the plane, right? So you're with a couple hundred other people. Did you all come from the same place? No. When you arrive at your destination, the same destination, you're all going to the same place? No, but for that plane ride, you're going in the same place in the same way. So too in our life, we could be right next to hundreds of people, but depending on consciousness, will determine are we together for a while, and then we're going different ways. And I don't mean like separation, divorce, that sort of thing, but just different destinies, even if we're still together with those people. Everybody having their own unique experience. Because lack, that sense that I'm missing something, or the opportunity to reveal the light that's always here that I just didn't see, depends on our consciousness. Doesn't depend on anyone or anything outside of us. Where our consciousness is, so too we will go. So the more, therefore, we're driven by the internal, then the more we're going to be happy all the time, even when challenges come to us. Because like this word game that I play, are all the words there from the first moment that screen shows up? Yes, but now I have to go through my memory. What do I remember? What do I know? Where do I see the words? I've got to look at it a little differently. Because obviously they're not all written just straight across. They go backwards, forwards, diagonally, etc. So too, every time we find ourselves in a sense of lack, we're looking at life and it's the same way. We have to go diagonally. We have to look at it differently. We have to have a different perspective. That's why we say consciousness is everything. As we change our consciousness, what we see in front of us changes. We suddenly see the answers we didn't see before. How many of you ever had something called unexpected good happen to you? Well, what does that mean? Unexpected good. Here was your life. Here was the situation. You didn't see that good, but all of a sudden it jumped out at you because of something we had done previously. To see beyond our five senses, to be driven from the internal instead of the external, and suddenly our eyes show us something different. Think of business opportunities. You never had two people looking at investment, and one says, oh, no way, never happened. The other one says, oh, yes, it will. And sure enough, it does. Never happened? And they're both just as intelligent. They're both just as successful. They've both been successful in those types of investments, but one sees what the other one doesn't. Unexpected good. How do we find unexpected good? That's the key. We want to know the technology, how to find it. And that's what the Kabbalists call it, finding. You ever found $10 or you ever found money on the street? I'll say $10 and someone said, no, I found $9.99. So I guess, right? Found money on the street. I don't care what it is, a penny, a nickel, a dime, $1, $10, $100. How do you feel? You feel good, right? Even if it's a penny, what do we tell ourselves before Kabbalah? Lucky penny, right? Lucky penny. What does that mean? It means somehow we're seeing good in that penny. Because on the physical level, really, what's a penny going to do for us? I mean, even really a really poor person, okay, it may be more percentage of their income, but really a penny, you follow? But we'll still say lucky penny. Why? So we'll feel good about it. So the Kabbalists call this idea finding. If we're always in a state of finding the light, no matter what's going on around us, we'll always have that sense of inflation. We'll always feel full, happy, joyous in life. Because we're always finding more light. That's our work. Find the light that always existed there, even though we didn't see it. Because the fact we don't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I think I've told a few times, in I think it was 98. Imagine what life was like in 1898. The head of the United States Patent Office went to Congress and said, you might as well close down the patent office because everything that could be invented had been invented. Think about that. Like me, 20 words, 30 words, there's 200 available, but he only sees the few. That's it. That's it. Why? Because however he happened to be, he was blocked. He was unable to see or imagine, or even we'll call it hallucinate, anything better than what existed in 1898. You and I already have more ideas right now in our head about more good that could show up in our life. Even not specifically. Of course, we all want to look at that person who's not treating us the way we want and say, well, I could imagine they treat me just like I want. Right? Yes, what do you want? Anything you say, whatever you go. Right? Exactly. I'm at this 30 years. If there was a way that could happen, I would tell you. But I still now they're all saying, yeah, but Chaim, you couldn't find 250 words in the thing either. Okay, there's no way that's going to happen. But what we can do, as we are talking about today, be driven from the light inside of us, that we'll acknowledge and be able to see the light that's everywhere present. Because that's all that this life is about, finding that light, and therefore awakening and experiencing unexpected good. Just means open our eyes. Don't we say, I raise my consciousness to see the miracles and wonders of life, not to create them, to see the ones that are already happening, because my spiritual blockage is what doesn't allow me to see the miracles that are taking place or acknowledge the miracles. Had a student years ago in London. She was going through a divorce. Her life was kind of tough. Right? The kids were misbehaving through the divorce. They weren't getting along, she and her ex. The money was tight, all these different things. Now, if you're thinking driven by the external, how should she have felt? sad and deflated, right? How did she walk around happy and joyous? So unlike all the people around her, that people who had been her friends for years took her to lunch, sat her down, and they wanted to intervene in her life. Intervention. What was the problem in their eyes? She was too happy. She was too happy with her situation. She shouldn't be that happy. So they were going to go and intervene. Like, to what end? You know, we want you to be unhappy because look at your life. What good friends. Think about it. And I'm not judging them. Obviously, they were well-intended, but they didn't understand because they couldn't relate. How could you be happy with all this chaos? How could they be happy in those situations? Well, that's the paradox. When I was a kid, I won't ask you, used to go to the pediatrician, right? So every now and then, have to get a shot. So of course, when you're 8 years old and the nurse looks at you with this hypodermic needle that looks like it's about this big, right? And your arm's only about this wide, and she say, roll up your sleeve. So I'm already doing this. I'm already squeezing tense like this because I know it's going to hurt. And then what does she say? What did I understand at 8 years old? If you relax, it won't hurt. I'm saying to myself, yeah, sure, that's easy for you to say. You're giving me the needle. I'm the one. Then as I got older, I realized why. Because if you tense up, the muscle fiber squeezes together, and now it's more difficult for the needle to pierce through. If you're relaxed, then the needle can kind of find its way between the muscle fiber. It doesn't hurt so much. But how do we deal with life? Right? Challenges come our way. Right away, we're tense. We're blocking the flow of divine inspiration. We're blocking the flow of the voice of the Creator, the light force that has all the solutions. We're blocking it, not because it's not coming to us, we're blocking it. So when challenges happen, if we tense up, we're not going to see or hear the right solution, and then we wonder why things continue from one chaotic situation to the next. So now what are we saying? Be a crazy Kabbalist. That's why they say Kabbalah makes you crazy. Because it does. We're going to look at our challenges and we're going to say, no, I know the light of the Creator is there. I have peace. And the happier I can be through my challenges, like relaxing the arm, the muscle, it's going to be easier to go through that and I'll come out better for it. So it's not about just hallucinating or making it up. No, we're here understanding the light is everywhere. So the more I connect to the light, then the happier I am even in dealing with the challenges, even going through the difficulties. That's what life is about. Got to remember also, why do the challenges come to us? Our mistakes of the past, like we talked about the woman. When she's 10 years old or 8 years old and she had this thought of hopelessness, that was a mistake spiritually. It stayed with her until she corrected it. So challenges come our way, so that instead of making the choice of receiving, we make the choice of sharing. Instead of not seeing the light in it, we begin to see more and more of the light. We begin to act internally instead of externally. Therefore, it's much easier just to share. Because the more we do actions of sharing, the more the light will do actions of sharing. The universe will reflect back our behavior. And so we have to always keep it in mind. Consciousness is everything. Is everything. And therefore, the more that I'm sharing, the more I'm reaching the Garden of Eden. Because it already exists, right? It's already there. It's just up to each of us individually to make it manifest. That's what we're here for. We all feel inside full. We feel that 250 words. We feel the Garden of Eden. But now we look on the outside and we see we don't have, and that's when we create that sense of lack. And even though we are all those kinds of giving people, sharing people, what does the opponent put in our head? Yes, of course I want to share. I want to be generous. I want to be loving. I want to be forgiving. But the opponent in our head makes us perceive we don't have enough. Whatever it is, we don't have enough. And therefore, yes, I would love to share, but I don't have what to share. So think about it. As long as a person in that state of lack, feeling they don't have, feeling therefore that the light is not all around them and the light hasn't supplied them with everything, then the more they're going to act with the lack, receiving, the more they're going to feel the lack, the more they're going to experience the lack. And it's self-perpetuating. You and I are here to make the shift right now today, from lack to fullness, from hell to heaven, from chaos to order, from darkness to light. All we need to do is work together to make that Garden of Eden show up. How many of you, if you saw a $100 bill in a pile of dirt or garbage, would look at the $100 bill and say, oh, I would like to have it, but it's in a pile of dirt, so I'm going to pass it by? Any of you? No, why? Because the value we perceive in the $100. So we would be willing for $100 to do what? Dig into the garbage to pull out the $100. So today is the day that we have to start seeing the light that's worth more than $100, $1,000, $1 million. We have to start seeing the light in the other people that we didn't see yesterday. We have to see the light in the challenges in our life, at work or at home or in the world in general. Start to see the light, respond to the light, act like the light. Then as we collect more and more people who are doing that same thing, then what are we doing? We're taking the Garden of Eden that's been hidden for thousands of years from humanity. We're removing the covers, we're revealing it to everybody, and you and I are leading the way into that Garden of Eden. God bless. So before we bless our offering, I want to share this with you. You know, the last few weeks I've been sharing stories. So this newer student from Italy sends me this. So I wanted to read it just as he wrote it. So he says, "Dear Chaim, how are you? Hope you are fine. As you know, I am the Italian Kabbalah student that follows every Sunday your lessons because I love your message." Okay. It's time for me to share with you my story and hope you will read it tomorrow or in the next lessons. These last years have been so difficult to me, I'm reading as he wrote it, because many sad things happened. The first, my young sister had some health problem and didn't want to live anymore. Talk about depression. That's why I thought when he wrote it, I thought it's perfect for today. I was so worried and shocked, I wanted the possibility to help her. All my family goes down, but luckily I asked God to help and praying, reading the Zohar and asking for the light. Things started to go better. I read about the Zohar to my sister and magically she started to live again. I shared with her all my teachings and I was so happy. But later I realized I was without energy and my boss wanted more from me. I was devastated and felt empty. I didn't appreciate life. So I started my Kabbalah lessons, and now I find a new world inside of me. Light has come back. I want to study more and more. So I want to say to all of you, thank you. Thank you because every Sunday you improve my life, and together we create a new energy. Exactly. So for those of you who are new or just need a reminder, if you don't have one of these, at least get this. If you're ready for the whole set, you can find out about it, but at least have a pocket Zohar to keep with you. Because the more of these we have around, they just radiate the light of the Creator. It's simple. Driven by the internal instead of the external, we can understand that it's full of the light of the Creator. Driven by the external, what do we see? A book, right? And the moment we say book, what does it remind us from childhood? School, a book. You got to read it and understand it to try and get anything from it. But if you're driven by the internal of the light, and we come to understand the technology of Aramaic just shines the light of the Creator directly to our soul, because every human soul is made up of Aramaic letters. That's what carries the light of the Creator. So just by having these books around you, right, or carrying it with you in your car, your pocketbook, purse, backpack, whatever, it's radiating a shield, a sphere of light that's helping to bring us that transformation of darkness to light and chaos to order. So at least avail yourself, or just go ask about it if you don't have one. If you already have one, get a couple. It's the holiday time. Give them as gifts. I would love for you to have this because it brings blessing and protection. Just offer it. 99% of the people today are happily accepting it. 30 years ago it was a little more difficult to get people to grasp the idea that something like this could actually radiate the light of the Creator. Today we've got thousands of miracles, and even like the one I just shared with you, so many of those stories, you can't really say that it's just random. All right? It's all centered around these books. And this is why we take this moment now to do the blessing. Yes, we are a charity. This is our mission, to spread this around. And so it's on your support, and those of you watching us, it's your support that helps speed up the spread of the Zohar and this wisdom of Kabbalah, transforming the planet back into the Garden of Eden. So that's why we always take these few minutes, because of course, the whole point of the center is we want every human being on earth to have their Garden of Eden. And then the more of us who are attached to our Garden of Eden, the faster we can bring the whole world to that understanding. Because that's what everyone's looking for. Like we said today, the sense of lack that creates all the chaos out there, is it because for those people there's not enough light in the universe? Or is it because they don't see and understand how to get the light? That's the key. So we're helping them by the example we set, and by spreading the light, we're helping them to see that light. So if you take your offering in your hand, we'll take a few moments just to put our energy and our blessing in it. Just injecting your light, your love, your gratitude and appreciation for all the good the Creator's given you, for all the light that's constantly available to us. And to fix our piece of the mistake of the Garden of Eden, sharing first in order to bring illumination, to manifest miracles, to bring greater blessings for us and for others at the same time. We send it off with our love and our gratitude, knowing the universe will make it grow in the right way, in the right time, bringing us manifold blessings. Seeing peace on earth. And together we open our eyes and we say, Amen. And let's wish everybody who's watching us online a happy week. Have a great week. Oh, before you go, just to remind you, next week we will not have a Spiritual Sunday. The week after that, we will be back with the new moon of Capricorn. So yes, also I announce it for you here, but before we say goodbye. So there'll be something online that I'll post, but we won't be here in the Boca Center next week. Okay? So let's wish them a happy week or happy 2 weeks. Thank you for joining us. Let them hear from you. Yes. Okay.